walk of the wild ones, into the woods and the darkness, rebirth the ways of the ancient ones whose tracks were washed away in blood. It falls to us now to open up and taste beyond what we've been fed. Take up the phoenix fire of cleansing, change to light the path instead. Step by step through the unknown, I'll be your light and you'll be mine. In darkness let love light the way to feed the soil of changing times. Step by step through the unknown, I'll be your light and you'll be mine.
Hi everyone, welcome back for part 2 on Vipassana. I have, I think, 2 or 3 extra children in the home and kids playing in the basement. I don't think with the microphone you will hear them, but it is like a little chaos downstairs that I am going to speak through anyway. Luckily, I have my cat, Daphne, tortoiseshell, who was out all night and now has been sleeping all day. So she is curled up on my bed. My little office is in my bedroom, and that provides a very grounding, comforting presence. So, part 2 Vipassana. It has actually now been a month since I finished my Vipassana. And I guess I will first speak to landing back on this month. I guess landing back after a month of being out of Vipassana. I will also talk about the top 10 things I learned from Vipassana, including simplicity, the relief from not complaining, boundaries, posture, etc. And then I will kind of talk about what happened in the middle of my Vipassana experience between days 4 to 6 and the orgasmic blissful state that I reached on day 7 and what happened after that. And I hope that will answer all your questions. It's interesting to see this beautiful full moon rising. Because last month's full moon, I was driving away from the Glastonbury, Avebury area, which will be part 3 of my this podcast series, kind of talking about my experience in that area of the world. And as I was driving away from that, I was driving east towards the rising full moon, away from the sunset, towards London, getting ready to return to Canada on the eve of Beltane. That was a very kind of significant moment and drive. So I've been seeing this beautiful full moon and reminding me of that time. And it reminds me of this lunar calendar I sort of keep in my head. I like to pay attention when things are happening, where the moon is at. And it's kind of the opposite from the way most people use astrology, where we will read something that someone says about astrology on a post or on the internet or on Instagram. And then we say, oh yeah, I see that in my life. And then observe our life. The way I like to use astrology is to see if I can observe the sky myself, learn the constellations, and then I know that because of the offset with the angle. Anyway, that's a bit of an astrology thing to get into. One day I'll be talking about astrology more. But to be able to look in the sky directly, like right now we can see Jupiter and Venus together. It looks in the sky like it's in the zodiac sign of Gemini when you look in the sky. But according to the tropical zodiac, it is in Gemini. Gemini or Cancer? See, even I get confused. They're in Cancer in the tropical zodiac, and in the sidereal, which we see in the sky, they are in Gemini. And regardless, I just like to see Jupiter and Venus together. They're very happy partners. And then I like to observe how that's affecting my life and kind of see if those planets and energies have anything to share. And of course, there's still value. Oh, I just realized I was not holding the mic that whole time. I hope that we're going to be able to fix that, but I'm going to keep going. Yes, so I like to blend a little bit of listening to astrologers and what they suggest with also observing the stars myself in the sky. And I actually did this quite a bit during Vipassana. This brings me to Vipassana because we started Vipassana. So it's a 10-day experience, and we started it. There was a new moon that started April 16th, and the new moon was on April 17th. I believe. And so what that means is that there was a few nights where we didn't see the moon at all. And then one of the nights we had an incredible crescent moon right below Venus in the sky. That was just so beautiful. And when you're sitting in the hall in the evening sit is pretty long because you sit there for wow, I'm starting to forget the schedule already a little bit, but I think at 6 p.m. you have a 1 hour sit, then you have a break, and then you have a 1 hour lecture, and then a break, and then you go back in for another half-hour meditation, and then you can go to bed. And so you're in there. I mean, you go outside when you get your break, but the sun kind of sets, the birds go quiet in that time, because that's when the sun was setting for us, I guess around 8 o'clock, it's 8:15. And then you walk out and it's all quiet and the moon is out and the birds are quiet. That's something that I noticed. You definitely start to notice nature and things because your mind is so open, especially on the last few days. I found that in the beginning, I was thinking a lot about my life and logistics and planning, and then that kind of fell away. It took time for that to fall away. And then you get to notice all the incredible things about nature. We had this mother duck who was walking her 13 ducklings. And we would see her almost every day. She could be in the pond, or there was this little waterway that was hidden by the walking paths that we had in the, like an orchard, I guess, with very young trees. So it's not big trees, but these young, beautiful trees. There was a hidden path, and on the last day when we could break silence, this woman that I met, a friend, I guess I could call her now, showed me her secret place of watching the ducks in the little stream that was hidden behind this bush of trees. And it's so fun to hear how people find their own kind of secret little places and their little things that they do. And you kind of find your space and your rhythm. So for me, I liked to go for an evening walk under the stars after all of that. Most people went straight to bed. I think I was alone, going out in the full darkness in the orchard, under the stars, under the new moon. It was beautiful, and I could see the moon, growing over time. One of my favorite things is being able to observe the sky every night. And we had clear skies a lot of the time. We had no rain. I had no rain for 2 weeks in England. People told me that was a miracle. It was pretty wild. Okay, so what am I getting into here? So I have notes from my last episode, which I recorded, I guess now 2-3 weeks ago. And I mentioned that there was a lot of anger in the first few days. And then that did really dissipate. I don't know, something happened where I worked through that anger, and I haven't, it hasn't come up for me. And I've had things that have angered me, or, that I could get angry about, mostly regarding family and other frustrations. And I noticed that I have more patience for certain things and also less patience for others. One of the 10 things that I learned from Vipassana was boundaries. The teacher gave you, 5 minutes for a one-on-one question. She didn't let you stray from questions pertaining to your work with the meditation technique. I tried to ask her, questions about, do you have children? Can you understand? And there was no room or space for that kind of relational talk. And of course, when I met her on the last day, we got to talk a little bit more about those things. But within the boundaries of the Vipassana experience, there was no room for that. And it was so nice for me to feel that boundary. And so it means that like I have better boundaries now, I guess. And for a long time, I was trying to avoid having boundaries. I'm a projector in human design. I think we're like very porous and open and penetrating and in our aura. And I think that would describe me accurately. And I have trouble with boundaries where often in relationships, I kind of have this idea that I will always offer an olive branch and I will always keep like doors open and the bridge open and accessible for people. And not only that, but a lot of the time be willing to walk across the bridge, 75% or 100% of the way, even in most circumstances. And I've realized that that doesn't serve my relationships. It doesn't serve me nor the other person because I'm stealing from some of the work that they need to do to meet me halfway. So that's been very interesting. And because I have these boundaries, I have less anger and less resentment. And I think I learned about this in a human design projector thing. She put it so concisely. I can't remember the account now, but it was something about how respecting boundaries, respecting my energy. If I don't feel seen or invited by people, then I'm not welcome there. Like I'm not appreciated there, and I won't, I'm just going to be having my energy be drained if I don't feel like there's some kind of an exchange. And I struggled with that because I was like, well, I always want to be able to give and be generous. And I've been very generous to a lot of people, and some, take and take and take and take and take, and they will do that until you say that's enough. And other people are incredible and find other ways to give back, even if they can't give back money or whatever, they give back laughter or, help with the kids or bring a meal or, are incredible listeners. So I'm becoming much more aware of those kind of boundaries. And that I think is why I'm less angry. When in the first 2-3 weeks right after Vipassana, I was also very sensitive to like changes in my body and how I felt, and, feeling anger or frustration, like maybe more regarding my husband when I would need to speak up. And it's something that I kind of struggle with, is that when I feel not okay with something or not okay with a situation, I have trouble speaking up in the moment. Sometimes it takes me like 24 hours to realize, oh, dang, I should have spoken up. And then I bring it up to the person and they're like, well, why didn't you say anything? It's like I have a delayed response of some kind. But because Vipassana focuses on the sensations in the body, it's a very simple technique. First, you focus on the breath for 4 days, and then you focus on body sensations. And I guess there's a little bit more detail than that, but not really. The treasure of Vipassana is the environment itself. And so, yeah, I have noticed that has decreased as I meditate less. I think that in the last week I've really struggled to find time to meditate. And I also find that there is a magical point with that 1 hour mark where you surpass things at like 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Like I find at 45 minutes is really when I feel done. And then sitting there for another 15 minutes, you work through a lot. That's where that surgery happened. So I feel like the anger is what was surgically removed from my being, and my mental habits is more what I would say in that time. And what has been left, well, there was grief, which I worked through and released. I mean, I'm pretty good at like releasing grief. My husband holds incredible space for that when I get emotional, bless him. What is left behind now, I would say, is fear. Pretty strong fear around, entrepreneurship and even homeschooling, and will our choices like work out for our kids? I don't know if you can relate with this. Sometimes I think as an entrepreneur and podcaster, I guess, sharing about these things, I should come off as someone who's got it figured out. And now that I have it figured out, I can share with people. Or at least I can really well pretend that I've got it figured out. And I think a lot of people do that. And I'm pretty tired of that. So I'm more interested in documenting my own journey and sharing with you, as much as I feel comfortable sharing in exactly where I am in every moment. And so what I'm curious about is if I can get back to a 30-minute, 1 hour morning and evening, at least, at minimum. And that is in the Vipassana training what they suggest, that's the minimum. That can I work through this fear? Can I be more clear? I think part of my fear is because of lack of discipline and organization. And so I feel like the things that need to get done to grow the business, or allow my husband to grow his business, and allow the kids to develop in all the different ways, sometimes don't get done because I'm not organized or disciplined enough. So I think that's where it's coming from. I do notice that in the morning, and I don't know about you guys, when I first wake up, my mind like starts thinking right away, and I'm planning and I'm processing and I'm strategizing, like lying in bed. And sometimes that can last for an hour, especially if I have a sleepy cat or a sleepy child or a sleepy husband next to me and it's cozy and I'm in bed. Then I lay there and I'm thinking for about an hour. And often it's the same thing before bed. Last night I did meditate for 30 minutes with my husband. Was it 30? Maybe 15. And I went to bed. I slept so well. So I do understand and believe it's so important, I think, especially morning and evening around sleep, to start and end the day with a meditation practice, settling the mind. Last night, for example, I often in the evening need to process my day. My husband laughs about this, where I need to like talk about everything that happened and kind of process. And that's what I was doing in meditation. So I noticed that. And I think what I need to do next time or tonight is write things down in a notebook and date it, and then like get it out, and then be able to sit and meditate and clear the mind and focus on the breath. What the teacher Goenka said in one of his lectures at the end was he recommends a minimum of 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening of sitting meditation. And what you will find in that, with that 2 hours, is that you might need an hour less sleep, because when you do actually enter into like a trancey meditative state, the mind is resting and doesn't need as much rest with sleep. Most of us are resting because our minds and our brains need the rest. Our bodies also need rest if they're very physically active in the day, but most of us need it for the mind to rest. And I'm so curious about whether or not that will be true. If I wake up at 6 a.m., does that replace sleep, and meditate from 6 to 7? Does that replace sleep? If I meditate 9 to 10, then does it get easier to wake up in the morning? I'm not sure. I hope to be able to test that out and let you guys know. Okay, I'm going to get to the 10 things I learned from Vipassana. The simplicity, the power of simplicity. The amount that I was able to rest and relax because I was only thinking about a few things. Oh man, it just felt so good in my brain and in my body. And so I do feel like I've cut a few things way back. I'm scrolling a lot less on Instagram. I'm actually spending a lot less time in messaging groups and talking to different people. I'm trying to keep it very much dedicated to my children and my work and my husband and my very close friends, and some family members. And that's it. Those are the people who have my time. And then simplifying things like meals and, what I wear and, my routines are already pretty simple. I mean, I think moms eventually become queens of simplicity. I was not, just because of how much we have to handle. So a lot of things just have to simplify. I had maybe 3 outfits that I wore all of Vipassana. I would wash my underwear almost every day because it gave me something to do. So I had 2 or 3 pairs of underwear that I wore the whole time because I was washing them. Same with my socks. And that felt really nice. And it made me think like, dang, I want to wash my underwear every day. And then I don't have to wash 10 underwears at the end, at the end of the week or whatever. But yeah, the power of simplicity. And I think like there's, times in the life where things can be more or less simple. I have a lot of energy to put into the work I want to share and what I want to do and the marketing of it, which is like so much work when you're getting going. And that is requiring a lot of my time and energy. And that means that other things have to simplify. And thanks to Vipassana, I'm very patient with that and very accepting of that. The relief of not tending to anyone. Oh my gosh, this was huge. I hope I didn't mention this in the first episode, but I will go over this briefly. I'm often someone who leads groups and works with a lot of groups. And as a mother, I tend to my children and my husband. And as a projector, I like dive deeply into people. And because there was no talking or communication, I couldn't interfere with other people's processes. And it was such a relief. And this again comes back to the boundaries and things in relationships. It's like I'm no longer going to save people from themselves, from their own behaviors. And my therapist actually had a great point. She said, rescue is robbery. They teach that in family therapy, where sometimes overbearing parents are trying to do too many things for their kids. And if sometimes rescue can be robbery. Of course, there are moments when you need to step in, in case of danger, but it's mostly better for people to have their own path and their own journeys. And I think I will bring that into my QHHT sessions as well, where I'm going to trust more deeply the person's session and inner voice, more than I did before, I think. The relief from other people's complaints. This was really nice. As soon as people started talking, complaints and judgments about other people, not from everyone, but they started coming out pretty significantly. And I realized how much of a relief it was to not hear that. When people complain about the temperature or the weather or other people or the way things are organized or whatever, God, it was so, like sometimes I have my own complaints, and then to add other people's complaints just fills your mind with complaining. It was so nice. It was so nice to not have that. Sitting in meditation begets good posture. That's what I have here. I was surprised by this. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, Virgo gal here. And I remember when I started meditating and during our yoga teacher training, I was like, well, how do I sit? Like, how exactly do I know I'm straight? And sometimes I would practice against a wall and, or with a book on my head to try to like really know what was my straight spine. And actually, all those things helped. All those experiences helped. Having a weight on your head allows you to really sense your head's position relative to your spine. But what happens over an hour, I think, is that good posture is the most comfortable. So you get trained while trying to sit there without a backrest to be more strong sitting in posture. And I found that my core and my back were very, very strong when I finished Vipassana. When I was walking, I felt like very straight and tall. I noticed it especially after, or just sitting in a chair, waiting around for things or standing and waiting. My posture has improved tremendously. And I was sneaking in some, yoga and like stretching, not yoga really, but a bit more like some subtle qigong things for the spine, and a little bit of stretching, and maybe that made a difference. But I didn't start doing that on the first day, maybe on the fourth or fifth day. I really think it was the meditation practice itself that forced good posture. And I felt pretty bad for people who already had bad posture, like really built into their backs and bodies. It made me see that regular yoga practice and understanding your body and maintaining good posture really helps, because I did speak with those people afterwards and they had a lot of pain in their backs and in their shoulders. The woman sitting beside me said she had excruciating pain in her hip, and I would just see her move around. She didn't really like make noises or complain, but yeah, she would have to go to a chair, and eventually the teacher told her that she could walk and leave and go walk if she needed to, because she had never seen someone say that they had that much excruciating pain in their hips. There's a lot of energy stored in the hips, so it was interesting to hear where people had the most pain. For me, it was my knees, I guess, and lower back that had the most pain. I already mentioned anger is like very much not present in my space and being anymore. And the next layer is fear. Yeah, that is there. And so the Vipassana and Buddhist kind of practice in general is accepting things as they are. And I took a beautiful picture. I have this app called Still that I absolutely love. And it's a good timer, and it gives you a little quote at the end. I think it's a free little app for meditation timer. And the message the other day was, in mindfulness, acceptance always comes first. Change comes after. And I believe this deeply. There have been a lot of things in my life that I've been, wanting to change, like even my body and fitness level. I was like very hard on myself for a while. And especially after periods of, tough times where I overate a little bit and I gained weight, or after, having a baby. And I feel like whenever there's a discomfort, something we don't like in our life, we have to land in it. Even like financial discomfort, you have to land in it and fully accept it and be willing to stare it in the face and be with it and land in the present moment. And from there, you have like a solid footing. I see it as climbing, stairs. You have a solid footing to go to the next stair. And to move from that solid footing. Otherwise, you're just kind of falling through empty space, is how I see it. So I like that app. I love this quote. I'm going to read it again. In mindfulness, acceptance always comes first. Change comes after. And I feel like that practice, even the 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening, is kind of about that. It's about fully just being here in a being state. And when I managed to do that 1 hour in the last month or so, wow, does it make a difference in my day, especially if I start in the morning. I wrote down here, less patient, more patient. I was telling you already that I have less patience for things that that don't serve me or the other person to have patience about. And this also applies to motherhood and children. I think like the first day I got back, the first or second day I got back with my children and husband, I was changing my son. I was like cleaning his bum, wiping his bum in the bathroom, and my eldest came and was asking me a question. And she's talking to me while I'm fighting him. And usually I would try to answer everybody and tend to everybody at the same time. And in that moment, I felt the discomfort and I was just like, wait, my mind is not doing this right now. My mind got so used to focusing on one thing at a time. And so I just told her, I said, my darling, you can wait. I'm going to fix his diaper bum situation. That's going to take a minute, and you wait and I will come to you next. And I just had zero patience for that kind of thing, which was very, very, very helpful. And I find I have more patience for things not working out as expected. The power of habit. So what I've heard for years and years and years regarding meditation practice is to, meditate in the same place every time you meditate as much as you can to kind of develop a habit and a ritual around it. In the same place, have like the same clothes. At Vipassana, they do give you blankets and all these blocks. I did have 3 different postures that I worked through. One was like the Zen meditation where I stacked up my pillows or my cushions and even my blanket, and I had my feet kind of pointing back and I was on my knees. And that felt really good on some days. I did that once a day. And then I had like a half lotus where my left foot is on top of my right thigh situation. And then I had this weird semi-cross-legged situation where I'm kind of propped up at the hips and the legs are folded in front of me, but not crossed one over the other. I'm not sure if that makes sense. But I did find rotating through them, I don't know, just made my body happier. Curiously, I had almost no pins and needles during that time. When I did my yoga retreat training 13 years ago, 13 years ago in 2013. So 13 years ago this year, I often had, when I would get up, full pins and needles in my left leg. And it was really bad to the point that it took like 2, 3, maybe sometimes 5 minutes for me to be able to walk afterwards. And I was a bit worried about that, sitting in meditation for this long, for an hour. But I think I almost never had it. Maybe one time I remember it was hard to get up. But otherwise, I think being propped up, having the hips, like for me, I like them maybe 4 inches higher than my legs, really helps. And since being back home, I did have a moment at home, in meditation, even sitting there for 15, 30 minutes where my leg is going numb. It's very, very, very uncomfortable, hard to sit with. I'm not sure if it's the vegetarian diet or what, but I have kind of found, I tried to use a cushion that was too high. That was it. And too firm. So what I have now is my sheepskin, a towel folded in a certain way. It's like a bigger towel that's folded. And then I have this beautiful wool blanket that I bought in Avebury that kind of sits over my knees, that I lay over my knees, because at Vipassana I got used to having that blanket over my knees. And then I have this beautiful dark purple shawl that comes from my great aunt, actually, who was a meditator herself, that I wear over my shoulders. And that's what I had that shawl at Vipassana, so it's really nice to have it here. And I have that laid out in one specific spot near my bookshelf here in my room, and that's where I try to go every day. So power of habit. So on the last day, I guess it would have been day 10, I remember when the silence was lifted, you kind of forget all about your schedule. You forget all about your routine. It's incredible how easy it is to get distracted. On the last meditation at 6 p.m. on the evening, I was like, dang, I really don't want to do this. I really feel done. And I sat down and I got myself set up as I usually did. And I put the blanket over my legs and boom, I just dropped in. I dropped down and I had such a nice meditation experience. It's so interesting how you never know how it's going to go. You know, sometimes you look forward to it and then you sit down and some thought or some physical sensation happens, or there's some kind of distraction and you don't have what you were expecting. And then other times you're fighting it, but you sit down anyway and you have an amazing sit. So it's all about the power of habit and doing it no matter what. Sometimes I wonder, you know, about whether being a woman or a man makes it easier or harder. And a lot of women spoke about this afterwards. You know, I spoke to like 3 women, and one got her period during Vipassana. And so she was, you know, craving meat, and she was very uncomfortable in her body, and, you know, had a lot of emotions leading up to it. Yeah, I was thinking about that. Is it harder for women than for men? For me, I felt very emotional and I missed my husband quite a bit. And when I ended with, on the last day when we could talk with my roommates, all of us said the person we missed the most was our partner or husband or boyfriend. And it was because we physically missed them and we were having those thoughts. And one of the things Goenka says is, how did he call it? He said, passion is a defilement of the mind. So, you know, having sexual thoughts is a defilement of the mind. And I think a lot of us struggled with that. And one girl even said she brought it up to teacher and said, I'm really struggling with passionate thoughts about my boyfriend. And I can't remember. I think the teacher suggested focusing on the palms of the feet and the soles, the palms of the hands and the soles on the feet to kind of ground the mind, especially at night when the mind is active. I tried that. It's a great practice, you know, when the mind is active at night and having these thoughts. And so for me, I was in my ovulation phase, and I think maybe this other girl was too. I had crazy thoughts about my husband, and the night that I had like the most burning, passionate, defiling thoughts about my husband was the night that he felt it too, and he had dreams about me. So it was kind of nice to have that confirmation and to be connected in that way. And also we were in a really, you know, kind of difficult part of our relationship this winter, and being away from him with Vipassana did confirm that I love him dearly and I missed him, and he was the one I wanted to talk to about the experience and share with him. And I was wondering how he was doing with the kids. So it was incredible for our relationship. I like to say that, you know, our relationship was struggling, so he sent me to the cloister, which most people, I guess, haven't heard that. But I used to read these French classical books. I went through a period of reading, you know, the classics of Balzac and all these people from the late 1800s. And they spoke about the cloister when a woman was acting up or was getting a little crazy or quote unquote uncontrollable, they would send her to the church. And this is not really in a positive way, you know, for her to live as a nun and to experience the monastery. And so I was joking in my head, my gosh, for a few days there, my mind was hilarious. It was so funny. It started being British and Scottish in my mind. I don't know if it's because I was influenced by the mind of the people around me. I laughed very hard in my mind. And one of my friends did say that it was like it's a distraction. It's a way to distract yourself from the work. And maybe that's true. I think like I went through that period of anger, and then beyond the anger was this comic, this comedian, which I need to remember to bring her out quite a bit, because even now, especially when this fear comes up and overtakes me, I get less funny, and people like me when I'm funny. And I help people when I'm funny, and it's better for the kids, you know, to have more fun, and my partner too. So even as I'm talking, I'm like, come on, Emily, like remember that silly fun place within you, and things will flow better, I think. So yes, the power of habit. Oh my, I went on some kind of a tangent there. Oh, beyond the funny then, on the last 2 or 3 days, I really zenned out. And that's because of this blissful, orgasmic, meditative state that I did reach. I had 2 sessions with it, I believe, on day 7. So it was the afternoon because I remember coming out in the sunshine. So what was it? There's a 2 p.m. mandatory sit. I believe 12 to 1. Yeah. I think there's a 2 p.m. mandatory sit. And then that evening sit at 6 p.m. Those were 2 where it was full bliss, where I would say, yeah, like close to an orgasmic state where the whole body was buzzing. I felt like I was floating. It almost felt like there was no time. I felt this incredible sensation in my head. And when I went out to walk after, like I was not even paying attention to other people. It felt like time felt like, and space felt like honey. And I have a poem that I wrote in February about time and space being like honey, flowing deliciously. And I need to go reread that poem. But that's kind of how it felt. And one of the women there, one of the teachers, so she was a teacher to the males. She was Asian with like short buzzed hair. So she really looked like a Buddhist monk of some kind. Whereas our teacher, Paula, had long, white, gorgeous hair. And the other teacher, the more Buddhist monk looking woman, who she was always dressed in full white, she walked very slowly. She was very short and she always had her head down, did not look me in the eye ever. Like, I don't think I ever saw her face fully. And she walked so slowly. And I thought, wow, this is why she walks so slowly, is because maybe she's in this blissful state in her body. I was like, oh, Guru, this is why you walk slow. It felt like I was floating. And the next day, on day 8, I kind of had a crash after that high where I was, I couldn't get back into that state. I was agitated. I felt like I had my experience and I was done. And I'm in England and I want to travel and see things. And now I'm pretty frustrated about being here again and having to follow the same routine again. And I was very agitated. And what they do is they check in on you every other day. They call up like groups of 5. I think we were 7. And they call you up in your rows up to the front, and the teacher checks in and she says, Emily, how are you doing? Like, Martha, how are you doing? Chelsea, how are you doing? And she checks in very quickly. So even if you don't go to the teacher hours, they're still checking in on you. And I deeply appreciate this system. You know, it reminds me of like school, how some kids can just get overlooked because they don't get checked in with. In this case, it was like every other day, the teacher's at least looking you in the eye, feeling you out, and asking you, how are you doing? And I told her, I said, I'm very agitated. And I think even in meditation, I had my eyes open and was moving around quite a bit. And they're watching that, you know, they're watching you. She said, come see me. Come see me during teacher hours. I want to see you first. And in my mind, I had already made up my mind, actually, because I had seen the teacher maybe 3-4 days. And there was always a long list of people. And I thought, I don't need to see teacher today, or maybe I don't need to see teacher the rest of the time I'm here. Other people need it more. I don't think I need it. And it was a genuine generosity thing, which I even surprised myself of. I'm like, oh, that's very nice of you, Emily. And she called me out on it. She said, I think you need to come see me. So come see me. So I went, I put my name on the list. I was maybe 8 or 9 down the list and went and waited, you know, right at the 1 hour mark at 1 p.m. And I got called in first. There's like the assistant lady who calls us into the space, and she remembered that I was first on her list, and she said, is Emily here? You get to go in first. And I was just like, what? Like, someone saw that I was struggling and caught me out on it and then reached out to help. that hasn't really happened too much in my life. I mean, I guess in some ways I can't be too hard on people, but in my life, the experience has been that when I start to struggle, I have to get to a point of like full implosion for for close people to kind of step in, if that's the way to put it. And I think I'm getting better at noticing when I'm starting to, need support and help from friends and family, and trying to reach out for it earlier. And other people are maybe trying to be better at paying attention to that as well. But in this case, it was an elder woman who was there for us and who specifically reached out. And that act in itself, I don't even remember what she said to me, but that act in itself was so helpful and healing. And she did tell me that they often say day 6 is one of the hardest days, but she thinks that day 8 is really difficult. And I told her, I was like, I had such an amazing experience and I felt like I was going to float away and maybe levitate. And then I feel like because of that, I'm kind of complete and I don't need to be here anymore. And she just encouraged me to work through that. And, one thing Goenka says all the time is that the goal is you're not reaching for any particular sensation. You're there with what is. You're there with what is. You're not actually working towards relaxation or mental clarity, or lack of pain in the body. Of course, those would be great to have, but that's not the goal. The goal is awareness and equanimity, and not clinging and not avoiding anything. Like those 4 statements are the goals of Vipassana meditation, are like the directives. So she kind of helped me work through that. And then that evening I chose to break some rules, and I ended up just singing songs in my head for an hour during meditation and really giving myself a break. And the hour went by so fast, and it was the easiest hour that I did the whole time, because I made, quote unquote, semi no effort. But it showed me 2 things. It showed me that mantra can be much easier than just being present with the breath as it is. So Goenka's approach is that mantra is a crutch and a tool, and it can help kind of clear the thoughts and focus on the mantra and center the mind and focus the mind. That's all great. But then when you try to drop the mantra, it's nearly impossible. And I have a friend who was already practicing yoga and singing kirtan, doing mantra. And when she did Vipassana, she had a really hard time dropping her mantra. And she told the teacher this, and the teacher said, it's like rain on a rainy day. Like it's just noise, it's just noise, like rain out your window on a rainy day that you just kind of hear in the background. And it's okay if it's there, it's just rain on a rainy day. And that metaphor really helped her. And after that, she dropped the mantra. Of course, the focus was gone. It was when she was fighting it and when she was trying not to do it and thought it was a problem that it persisted. So that's what I learned. I learned that it's much easier to do mantra and song or something in your head versus simply focusing on the breath. And the power of habit, like those. So then I didn't get back to that state of bliss. That was day 7, day 8, 9, 10. I didn't get back to that state of bliss, but after that really difficult day on day 8, the kind of crash, on 9 and 10, I kind of came to this more peaceful place that was less exhilarating than that blissful state, but quite peaceful, actually. Very balanced, very peaceful. My mind, I was playing a little bit with my brain and mind because I was thinking I could probably get myself to a place where I don't feel time and the hour won't seem so long, especially that last little bit, as I was saying.
So I was playing with sensations a little bit, which, you're not supposed to do. But yeah, I came to this place of balance. I remember on day 8, 9, or 9, 10, especially day 9 before the silence lifted, and even day 8, when they rang the bell for food, I was no longer even excited. Like, on the first few days, meals were the most exciting thing because it was a change and it gave you something to do. And I would sing in my head like Oliver Twist, like food, glorious food. And just have really funny moments at mealtime. And I thought sometimes it was really funny that we were all sitting there just staring at our food quietly, and I just wanted to burst out into laughter. But on the last few days, I was zen, man. Like, I didn't even care if it was mealtime, and I was like, what did they do to me? What have they done to me? Finally, the last point here that I learned from Vipassana is change yourself before changing the world. And so this was something that he was saying, like, we spent 9 days focusing on our inner world and our meditation practice. And then on day 9, you learn like the metta practice, which is like sending love and healing and well-wishing to others in the world. And I was so excited for that. I started getting frustrated about that pretty quickly, pretty early on. 100 people meditating in a hall, and we're not using our group energy to send that outwards. But his point was that you have to do the surgery and eliminate the misery within yourself first. You have to do the work, and you have to be able to focus on yourself and give love and healing to yourself. And sometimes we can be chasing other people, trying to fix other people all the time when we're not fixing ourselves. We're not staying with what is within. And the way that he said this, I don't know what it was on that day, but I just cried and cried and cried, and I felt seen and loved, and so grateful that I was able to get that break from my family, that my husband offered me that time and knew that I needed it. I was incredibly grateful. And so, yeah, on the last day, so that woman with the butterfly scarf, I think I maybe didn't finish the story. She made it right till the end. And I spoke to her a bit on the last day. I heard her talking to one of the French girls there, that she was then going on to this home that she owned in France, and that she was renovating, and that's like their summer home. And I was like, oh my God, that's my dream. My dream is to have a summer home in France, a little teeny house. It doesn't have to be teeny, but I don't know, small, yeah, smallish, with like a little rose garden. And my husband and I can have our escapades there, and I can work and write from there. It's like this little dream I have in my heart. And she had that. She was doing that. My monarch butterfly grandmother. And so I've been working with this theme of the butterfly, and over the winter, it was really tough. I was even considering separation from my husband, and I felt like at the end, in these last few months, I felt like the monarch butterfly was migrating. They go so far. They go all the way to Mexico, and they flitter and flutter, and the wind blows them, and they're just nuts. Like, how does that fragile little crazy thing go in a certain direction and make it to where it needs to go? It's baffling. It baffles my mind. And I was going to get a tattoo in England, and I've been wanting to get a butterfly and a rose. And I thought maybe the butterfly on my wrist. Where do I put the butterfly? And I felt like the butterfly actually has just landed back home. Like, I thought it was going on this crazy far journey, and I think it did, but it came home in the end. It came home, and it came home to my husband. It came home to my life, my children. It came home to my heart. The butterfly came home. Anyway, I don't know if that means something to you, but as I say it, it makes me teary-eyed and so happy. Yeah, so that's it about Vipassana. It's really nice to talk about it with you. I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the last one. Forgive me for forgetting. But I have seen online that some people are being, they're not being allowed back into Vipassana because they have other practices. This was one woman on her Instagram account. She went to a Goenka center. She finished her second 10-day retreat, and as soon as the silence was lifted during day 10, they told her that she was no longer welcome because she does sound healing and teaches yoga, and she needs to dedicate a whole year to only doing Vipassana before she's welcome back. And the comment section on that post is very interesting because some people say that they had the same thing happen to them, and other people said they've had no problem, even though, like, one guy said, I've been doing Vipassana for 20 years and teaching yoga for 20 years, and if they access my website or look up my name online, that's what they're going to find. And so there seems to be a discrepancy between the different centers. But in this case, for this woman, it looked like her name was going to be banned from applying to all Vipassana centers. And I'm not sure if there's more to the story there, but there were a few other people who commented below saying the same thing had happened to them, or what I've heard apparently is they allow you to do one regardless of what else you practice. They might allow you to do a second, and then after that you're expected to dedicate yourself fully to Vipassana and do no other energetic work. So that might be a conversation for another time. If that did happen to you, I'm very curious to hear about your experience with that. And if anyone is listening and they'd like to share about their Vipassana experience, please let me know. And it could be fun to have you on the podcast and hear about someone else's experience. One thing I feel like sharing is something that I saw recurringly, is that a word, in my sits, was meditating at we have a river that goes by our home, and it kind of turns a bend, a corner, and there's this huge giant willow tree that I love, this tree, and across the river is this beautiful maple tree, and I feel there's this portal. Anyway, I love this gate. I feel it's like grandmother willow and grandfather maple on each side of the river. And I kept seeing myself meditating there and teaching meditation or leading meditation or offering space for meditation at the river in the morning. And I did go today at 10:30 on a Sunday after a run and sat there and meditated. And I feel the same call again. It's almost distracting. It's like I have a hard time focusing on my breath because I'm seeing that. So I feel like it means I need to start a little morning meditation group there. And so if you're local to Collingwood, stay tuned for that, weather permitting. I'm thinking Thursday mornings could be a good day for that, Wednesday or Thursday mornings. I'm thinking 6 to 7 a.m. or 6:30 to 7:30 a.m. I think if I get there for 6 and then I invite other people to join at 6:30, and we can do a half-hour sit and then a little bit of qigong and maybe some like a chant or two, could be nice. So that's something that I'm seeing. And my part 3 will be sharing about my experience in Glastonbury, Avebury, with the stones there, with seeing coming across a tomb that's 5,000 years old serendipitously. That story just feels wild. And so that will be part 3. And if you have anything more to share about, or comments or questions about Vipassana, let me know. I do plan to be leading free monthly, more quantum meditation guided experiences, but that blend in a little bit of this essence of Vipassana at the beginning and at the end as kind of a grounding practice to an exploratory meditation experience like quantum hypnosis, because I do think Both are valid. I would say maybe Vipassana is a better foundational experience. But yes, so that is something I will be offering, is free monthly QHHT online gatherings. And if you're local, you can check my website for all our local events, our monthly women's circles and events for kids, yoga and stuff for kids. All of that is coming. I'm very excited to be bringing that to all of you. Thank you very much, and have a beautiful rest of your day.
Follow the walk of the wild ones into the woods and the darkness. Rebirth the ways of the ancient ones whose tracks were washed away in blood. It falls to us now to open up and taste beyond what we've been fed. Take up the phoenix fire of cleansing, change to light the path instead. Follow the walk of the wild ones into the woods and the darkness. Rebirth the ways of the ancient ones whose tracks were washed away in blood. It falls to us now to open up and taste beyond what we've been fed. Take up the phoenix fire of cleansing, change to light the path instead. Step by step through the unknown, I'll be your light and you'll be mine. In darkness let love light the way to feed the soil of changing times. Step by step through the unknown, I'll be your light and you'll be mine. In darkness let love light the way to feed the soil of changing times. Follow the walk of the wild ones into the woods and the darkness. Rebirth the ways of the ancient ones whose tracks were washed away in blood. It falls to us now to open up and taste beyond what we've been fed. Take up the phoenix fire of cleansing, change to light the path instead. Step by step through the unknown, I'll be your light and you'll be mine. In darkness let love light the way to feed the soil of changing times. Step by step through the unknown, I'll be your light and you'll be mine. In darkness let love light the way to feed the soil of changing times.